Welcome to NFL Daily, where we may just be addicted to podcasting. I'm Gregg Rosenthal. I'm in my garage. I'm talking to Jourdan Rodrigue across the city in her swanky new apartment. What's up, Jourdan? Didn't think we were going to do a show today, but then DJ Moore got traded. Felt like we had to do a show. How are you doing in your new home?
I love it. It's a disorganized mess right now. And Gregg, as I think you know, I love logistics and I love a plan. So it's bothering me quite a bit that I don't have it organized yet. But one thing at a time, we have to pod first. You know, this is crucial information for the listener.
Are you kidding me? The fact that you have working internet, your computer, everything is set up just a couple days after moving in. That is a victory. So congratulations.
We live in different worlds, Gregg.
Yes, congratulations. I decided after we thought about skipping the show today, we're not going to be in the studio, but when this DJ Moore trade happened, we wanted to get it out there. We do have a really great show that's going to drop Friday morning where we play a game, Free Agency Matchmaker, with Patrick and with Colleen, and I want everyone to check that one out. That's kind of a last free agency preview. We had some fun with that, but this DJ Moore deal to me is really fascinating. He's going to the Bills for a second-round pick. It's DJ Moore and a fifth-round pick for a late second-round pick. So that's the 60th overall pick in the draft. DJ Moore is going to Buffalo, and we've been talking about, man, they could use a receiver since early last offseason, to the point that obviously Brandon Beane got very upset about the local radio host talking about it. Conspiracy theorists believe that's why they're not even on that network anymore. They're bringing the radio in-house. They say, no, that's not it. But here he goes. We had a feeling after we talked to him at the Combine, they're going to do something at wide receiver. I don't even know if this is it. What do you think first, before we get into kind of the finances of just the trade compensation and the fit for DJ Moore?
Well, to me, this is a connective tissue sort of fit, right? This is Joe Brady, who at one point for a very brief time was the offensive coordinator of the Carolina Panthers in the now infamous Matt Rule era. And DJ Moore had a couple of his best seasons, if not his very best seasons, when he was playing for Joe Brady. So it's clearly a player and coach match that the coach has a vision for with the player. And the other thing that came to my mind, Gregg, when I thought about this, was actually our conversation with Brandon Beane that we had, very brief conversation at the Combine, where he kept alluding to how this was going to finally be the year that the Bills go a little heavier in their personnel. So where I think for me, I really envisioned and wanted a burner receiver for the Bills in this offense, especially because we know the type of deep ball that Josh Allen can throw and what they could do with an infusion of pure speed. To me, this sort of points to maybe some of those comments where a receiver who can really, really block. I know we haven't really seen him, put it in on tape in a little while, but a receiver who can really, really block, who is so tough after the catch. We have seen that even with some up and down vibes in Chicago. A player who can sort of move fearlessly across the middle of the field. This just feels to me like if they're really going to load up with heavier personnel with these tight ends, he is a very complementary receiver to that type of offense.
Yeah, and he is a big play receiver. You think of him catching underneath passes and being so good after the catch. But then, of course, he also caught a couple of the best plays in Bears history, and one of the best throws in Panthers history from PJ Walker. And some stats are flying around today of like the few amount of receivers that have this many big plays. And I actually was surprised that DJ Moore was on a list with so many of the great players in the league of big plays. And so that's the positive, I think, of DJ Moore. And what you said in terms of blocking and the potential and his success with Joe Brady, that's all, I think, really important. And it makes me feel like we're going to get a DJ Moore honeymoon season. He does seem to be the type of receiver, and there's always a couple of them throughout their careers that they bounce around a little. And like the first year in the new place, it's great. You get the best of them, and then the second year, there's a little bit of grumbling. There's the tape heads, like our friend Ali, and I've noticed it too. that notice how unhappy DJ Moore looks on a lot of routes. Maybe not giving the best effort in finishing his routes all the time. I mean, it ended the Bears season. I actually was surprised about how many people pushed back on the idea that that it was wrong to criticize DJ Moore for not giving full effort on the interception that ended the Bears season. It was like, that's the most thing you can be critical about, I think, possible. I know it's at the end of a long game, all that stuff, but considering it's consistent with a lot that you've seen out of DJ Moore the last few years, I think it's a problem. That said, the good moments have been really great, and he is young enough. It's crazy when you say, he had some of his best seasons with Joe Brady. That's right. It was like a season and a quarter, but he had that near 1,200-yard season with Joe Brady. He was 23 years old back then.
Yeah.
He's still only turning 29, and so I do think he's going to kind of be like a little bit like a Stephon Diggs, a little bit like a T.O., these different receivers who bounced around, and I do think you're kind of going to get the very best of DJ Moore in this season with a great quarterback ready to compete. After that, and this is maybe where we can get into the contract, that's where I start to worry about it a little bit long-term for the Bills.
Well, this is when the Bills are going to do exactly what the Bears just did, which is draft the player who is the younger version of DJ Moore, which again was the signal, sent in April of that he was probably not going to be with the Bears long term, despite the fact that they gave that big contract to him a couple of years ago. A lot of times teams, if they don't know how to draft a certain archetype of player, they will sign one in free agency, a veteran in free agency, and they will spend the year studying that player and then applying those traits to their scouting of new player or younger players who they are going to draft and then keep cheaply on a rookie contract. It doesn't sound fair or nice, but that is the way that the world behind the scenes in the NFL works. So I think that DJ Moore was obviously could have been a long-term, franchise player for them. They brought in a new coach, and it didn't seem to quite always mesh with Ben Johnson and DJ Moore, or between the two of them. And it became very clear very quickly that they were basically going to try to find rookie contract version of DJ Moore.
And they did in Luther Burden. I'm glad you brought up the Bears side of things, because to me, this is if it's not a home run, it's like a double, a ground rule double. You don't even have to leg it out or slide at second base. Like, this is just like, it could have even been a home run out, a win to get a second round pick, to get what I thought was a little bit of an onerous contract off the books. The reality is, DJ Moore's slide began before Ben Johnson showed up. You're right. This season, he only ends up with 682 yards. Last season, he didn't top 1,000 yards. And that was more where I thought the effort and attitude, and I know that Matt Eberflus team, we'll get to him a little later in the show. There was a lot going on. Right. There was a lot going on to be unhappy with, but when you're one of the highest paid players on the team, you do want some leadership out of that position. And so I think to get this much back for him and get off the contract is great. Whereas on the flip side, and this is a big part of it, I went from being on the move for the Bills, like not loving it because it feels a little desperate, and thinking like you almost are feeling like you have to make this move and you have a lot of other moves to make, but I get why they did it, to not really liking it when you looked at what they did contractually. Drew Rosenhaus got them to guarantee $15 million into 2028 as part of a restructure on this contract. So what the restructure does, Jourdan, is, I know you know this, but for the listeners, it gives them some cap space for this year. And it also opens up cap space, by the way, for the Bears this year, which is great. I think $16 million in cap savings for the Bears. But ultimately, pushing that money out to the future was what DJ Moore and Drew Rosenhaus got for the fact that, okay, we'll restructure the contract now to help you out in the meantime. But it's not like he's taking any less money. Here's what DJ Moore is getting the next 2 years. $23.5 million guaranteed each season. A really good contract, plus 15 more in 2028. So you add it all up. I did the math. I didn't see this anywhere else. $62.5 guaranteed $1 million. I don't think DJ Moore is getting close to that if he's like a free agent. And that's sort of not how it's supposed to work when you make a trade. Like the open market's supposed to be better for you. Do you think DJ Moore, for instance, would have like that big a market where you get $62 million guaranteed into year 3?
No, I don't think so. And I appreciate the thought exercise, but that's just not what his reality was going to be. If he was going to move teams,
that's a good point.
If he was going to move teams, it was going to be via trade. I know we were looking at this early, even in the regular season, how badly we wanted to see him with a team like the 49ers, for example. I think he'd be a good fit with like a Debo-less Commanders at this point. But it is interesting, like the Bills, I don't know that they've been in the mix for receivers enough recently to read the market on receivers, if that makes sense. They really haven't. I mean, they were in, now I'm forgetting, who was the receiver they said they were in on recently? There was like reports that leaked out.
During the trade, there was
last year's trade deadline. Yeah, I don't remember.
Deadline.
I don't remember.
I'm forgetting, but what they ended up settling for was Gabe Davis. And ultimately, like, I do get, from the position of where they're at now, it's Khalil Shakir, it's DJ Moore, and then after that, they still don't have much.
Well, they wanted to bring in a 1. Now, this will also be kind of a PR victory lap as well, because everyone shuts up about them not having a 1. Now, this was rightfully, I think Bills fans were rightfully complaining about this.
He's
to
not
be
a
clear.
1, though, right? He's not a 1.
But they're making him 1. Whether or not he is or isn't 1, that's a whole separate discussion. The contract says he is to this team. And so I think that, especially if you look relative to the other contracts that exist on this roster at receiver and the other players on this roster at receiver, he may be the volume 1 as well. And so whether, that's what you're paying for if you're the Bills.
Fair.
And no, I don't think he would have gotten that much were he a free agent. But when you are trading for a player, you're basically saying, we like this player. And I think the coach connection is huge here too. I want to reiterate that. I think that a new head coach financial bump happens so frequently. We are just seeing it now with the Bills, and in this case, Joe Brady, who they've made very clear they are all in on just trying to maximize his offense and pay big money to offensive players.
Yeah, and I like that. And like I said, I think it's going to help Josh Allen out. I do worry about like Josh Allen getting sick of him at some point if he exhibits some of the like lack of finishing the routes.
I also do want to push back on that just a little bit. And I think that the finishing plays is a very valid, by the way, criticism, because you could see that on his tape. But I think people forget, and maybe we don't even really know the extent of just how dysfunctional that last Eberflus season was. And then with all the firings in the interim and then Caleb Williams, I think it is possible that two personalities just did not gel well together between quarterback and receiver. And I think that's an equal load to carry. I don't think it just because the receiver is the one that gets traded, we can just put it all on his shoulders here.
I will buy that. My thing is, if for the money that he makes, and he's kind of making in between money, like a real one sort of rises above that. And the thing that worried me this year is like, whenever you saw miscommunication, like so many of Caleb throws where the two guys were not on the same page was DJ Moore. And by the numbers, under 700 yards, he clearly wasn't a 1 this year. He was one of 4 really good receivers that were kind of equal in different ways. And the Bears have to be absolutely thrilled with how it worked out because they got a lot out of DJ Moore. And ultimately, they, I think, would rather have Luther Burden right now. And I don't blame them.
Cheaper.
So really, really fascinating for both teams. And I do love the Bills are in this really interesting space where Joe Brady is saying, these are the new Bills. They're different. They are. And I think there's something to that. But also, this is not a move like a brand new regime makes. It actually feels a little bit more of like trying to get over the hump, a little bit of desperation and overpaying when we're kind of strapped and we have big needs, interior offensive line, cornerback, edge. I might throw a linebacker in there. And so we'll grade Brandon Beane at the end of this whole cycle because there's a lot more to do. But he's not just starting out. I think he's having to make decisions based on how they've gotten to this point.
Yeah, I don't think it is a crazy statement to note that I believe that they think they're under quite a bit of pressure. And now, while the coach, I'm sure, has a long leash here because he just was hired, I don't think the two are attached together necessarily. But I think the coach is more attached to the quarterback than anything else. I do think there's a sense of urgency in that building, and certainly a sense of urgency can lead to you making maybe splashier, whether or not that's the right adjective in this case, splashier moves than perhaps you have done in the past. And also the fact that you were sort of embarrassed last year. You said all these things, on the local radio station. I know Brandon Beane for years, going back to Carolina and all of that. And I know he's aware of those things, and you're not just immune to, you don't just tune all of it out. I think there's a little bit of a self-awareness happening there. So, I think it's a combination of factors, and we can't overlook the human psyche in all of this, but certainly they had to make a big move. They might have overcorrected financially a little bit, but they needed to go out and get their guy, and they clearly think that DJ Moore is one.
Totally agree. And there was only so many that were going to be available, and there is competition for it. And I do think there was a market. They are not giving. I know in terms of how much they had to give up with the contract, that's where it got a little crazy. But I fully believe that someone else was offering a third out there, or else they wouldn't have had to go to it too. So good on Brandon Beane for trying it. Let's go for it. Just sets up a fascinating rest of the period for them. Will Dawson-Knox stay on the team? I assume they're going to cut Josh Palmer, who's due a little bit of money. Tyrell Shavers is a good 4. Keon Coleman's not going anywhere because you're not going to get anything for him. And really sets up the Bears. Yeah,
they really mishandled that, too. Terry Pagula.
Yes. And I think that is a sneaky hard market. You got the Sabres there, but they're not happy with the Pagulas. They're not happy with the Sabres. And this is a team that's just been knocking on the door for a while. The natives, like Eric Roberts, are getting restless. They want to win. And we got to win, by the way. Eric points out this is now 2 players off Bill Barnwell and I's trade list in the last couple of days. So we got many more to go, hopefully. But Trent McDuffie, and now here's DJ Moore. We're trying to top the 9 players off our list that actually got traded a year ago. Let's take a break. We're going to come back. We just have a couple little items of news. Today's going to be a quick one, but some Maxx Crosby buzz when we get back. Back on NFL Daily. We did get the opinion of Bill's superfan, Eric Roberts, over the break. He seems moderately optimistic about DJ Moore, but believes we need some growth out of Keon Coleman. Let's move on from the Bills. It is time now for charging into the offseason, presented by Apple Card for all your game day purchases. Hey now, let's talk Maxx Crosby. And I know this is a weird thing to throw out because it comes from Trey Wingo, not a guy you normally see breaking news on Twitter. But it just was so intriguing, something, it's a little red meat I wanted to get into. He wrote, things are moving fast about Maxx Crosby. Last night, and he writes this on Thursday, Dallas thought they were close to a deal, but since then, other teams have raised the ante and potentially are offering the Raiders 2 first-round picks. Now Dallas is expected to shift their focus to Trey Hendrickson. Now, Trey Wingo doesn't break a lot of news, but occasionally he's popped up with some things over the years, and it's so rare that actually I do give it some credence. It's coming from somewhere. Whatever the reason for this is to get out, I find it interesting, even if wherever you think it is on the 60% accurate to 100% accurate scale. I like that the Cowboys are really in on these edges, spending big. I'm a little surprised, and the thing I would be a little surprised in terms of accuracy is I'd be stunned if the Raiders get 2 firsts for Crosby in the end, but we've kind of seen with McDuffie and certainly Parsons and some of these deals, we're seeing more picks than expected, and who could this other team be? I don't know, but we're kind of on the lookout right now, and it does really feel like this is going to be the offseason that the Cowboys spend big, whether it's Crosby, Hendrickson, or something. It is kind of also hilarious that they would be getting an edge rusher after trading.
I know, right? Just pretend none of that ever happened last year. Yeah, Trey was on, I think, the first go round of the Aaron Rodgers sweepstakes. He was all over
Yes.
that. So definitely
Yes.
some, like, a lot of credibility here on this. And then Jane Slater posted earlier today, our pal at NFL Network said, on Maxx Crosby and the Cowboys being at play here, here's what I'm being told from a team source. She quotes a team source saying, Raiders are talking to a lot of people, but we would not give up 2 first rounders. She says, that's the situation now. Will that change? I don't know. She said, but I checked for those of you who are interested. And I'm like, that's my girl. She's great. Like, I love the little flourish she adds at the end too. She's like, I know you guys are all fussing about this. So I went ahead and checked with like a high ranking team source because I'm Jane
call.
freaking Slater. Yeah.
I somehow missed that, and that does push the ball forward a little. First of all, it's coming from 2 people, and you would imagine they're, both have some Cowboy sources. Obviously, Jane does. It kind of indicates the Cowboys are willing to give up a first for Maxx Crosby. If they're not willing to give up 2 firsts.
Yeah, that was very specific to me.
Right, so that makes me feel, as we sit here Thursday afternoon, that Maxx Crosby is going to get traded. It just like we've gone a little back and forth over the last week, 2 weeks of like whether I think this will happen or not. But the fact that we're hearing other teams, in this case the Cowboys, but we'll see if anyone else is in the mix, is like willing to give up at least 1 first for him. I just think it's a matter of negotiating what the price is going to be. And I will be fascinated. And it is really interesting too, Jourdan. You know how these markets work, that Hendrickson and Crosby, it's like, which one is going to find a new team first? Is Hendrickson going to be kind of the backup prize to Maxx Crosby? Is a team like the Bucks, who, I could see Hendrickson going to, just ignoring the Crosby of it all, but just going right to like wanting to go to free agency? Does Crosby want to get moved before? It's all very interesting. And I think, look, 2 of our best edge rushers of the last 5 years are probably changing teams in the next 5 days. That's why it's the regular season.
The regular season, yeah. And to your point, the agents are probably waiting out these teams as long as they possibly can because they want a really good read of what these markets are. And these teams are all kind of listening to what each other is doing. And it's basically who blinks first and throws in a first and a second instead of a first and a third or a first and a fourth. So this is going to be interesting to watch because, yes, I do believe that because the Raiders, per Jane, are being so chatty right now in terms of assessing whether they can get this level of a haul for him, it kind of feels like the hay's in the barn on him.
I love it. Let's go through a couple of the releases that have happened. None of them were overly surprising. We mentioned earlier that the Vikings were cutting Javon Hargrave, who was a big signing for them last offseason. They're now cutting Jonathan Allen, who also was making around $10 million-ish a year. Has had a great career, but he's getting cut. And he also retweeted a fan who wrote about how in Brian Flores' system, the defensive linemen don't get sacks or pressure, which is true. And maybe Jonathan Allen didn't really enjoy his time in Minnesota, and the numbers don't look great. The Steelers are releasing Jonnu Smith. So Pittsburgh fans, I think they're going to be, unfortunately for Jonnu Smith, I think happy about that. That kind of indicates maybe Pat Freiermuth is not going anywhere. Darnell Mooney, who had a good 2024, is going to be a free agent. Wasn't as good last year, but could kind of be a decent 4th receiver for someone out there. And then I'll throw this one to you, Jourdan, as a surprise. There's just a lot of Alec Pierce smoke in the mix in New England right now.
Our Silver Lake friend, Alec Pierce.
Just everyone thinks Alec Pierce to the Patriots. I don't know where this came from or what, or if it's his agent using the Patriots, who kind of look like the team that's going to spend the most on a wide receiver, and they're trying to use it as leverage or what. But I'll tell you this, at this point, you got like the fastest white receiver in the last, I don't know how many years. The Patriots fans are going to be disappointed if he's not on the team at this point. They think he's already there. And I'm like, I still don't quite expect it. I don't know.
I just think back to that one guy who I ran into at joint practices with the heavy Boston accent, explaining the lore of white Patriots receivers to his father. And Efton Chisholm was definitely, absolutely going to become the next one. And I was like, I feel like I'm listening to a moment in a fan culture here right now.
Yeah, that's why Alec Pierce would be nice. It would be changing the stereotype, but only so much as one of the biggest, fastest receivers in the league. Chisholm fit more of like the profile. But anyways, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if Alec Pierce actually leaves.
I was laughing because you mentioned Jonnu Smith and his imminent release, and our friend Mina Kimes has this great podcast, and she talks about reality TV on it, and it's with David Dennis as well. Mm-hmm. And I don't watch a ton of reality TV, but I needed something to listen to that was light and like with people that I like listening to. So I picked that podcast, and I feel like I don't even need to watch like episodes of Love is Blind because they describe them so well. But I started watching for the first time, totally enraged by this season, by the way. We don't even need to get into it. But the Jonnu Smith thing reminds me of, it's everything that Arthur Smith ever wanted. And they get to the altar and then they're standing there facing each other. And then there's the entirely cringe moment where he's like, you know what? This ain't it. This is not
they
actually
tried.
it.
I mean, they tried to make it work. There were some games where it felt like it was the all Jonnu offense, and it was not effective. I don't think it was Jonnu's fault entirely, but yeah,
these things can be complicated, Gregg.
Yeah, I think they made the right decision to not say I do. I quit Love is Blind. The Minnesota season did it for me. If you're a listener out there, I haven't watched the last few seasons. I was like, I gave it a good 5-6 seasons. I felt like that was enough. Maybe I'll get back into it. We'll see. Cam Jourdan, speaking of saying I do, he's making it very clear through Adam Schefter that he's going to hit free agency for the first time in his career. A little bit of a leverage, like, hey, he's not happy with what the Saints are doing. And I just bring him up to kind of say, look, if a player is this close to free agency, man, that price better be sky high for you to get me to sign on the dotted line before Monday. And there will be some signings, but man, you're so close. To me, the only reason that you would resign now, but before getting to Monday or Sunday, whatever it's going to be, is that you don't really think the market's out there for you. So something to watch there. Also, I wanted to welcome back, we teased it earlier, Matt Eberflus to the NFL. How about the new member of the Raheem Morris defensive staff in San Francisco? The Flus is loose in the NFC West.
Whatever did we do
I have
without
no
it?
question for you. That was just more of a statement.
Yeah. Man, I don't even really know what to say about it, Gregg, to be honest with you.
I was just like, what do you think? You know, add a little, sprinkle a little flus to this whole NFC West thing. It's fun.
So I cover a lot of like coaching cycle stuff, as you know, over for The Athletic. And one of the funniest things to me every year is watching everyone's titles change. And like how niche some of these titles get because they can't promote a guy any higher, but they have to give him a pay raise, and then the agent like wants a better title for the coach or whatever. This one cracked me up. It was assistant head coach on defense.
Right. It's not even the assistant head coach. It's just the assistant head coach
to
on
the
defense.
Regional manager.
Like, is there another? There might be another assistant head coach on the team, so that's why they couldn't give it.
It's
great. Last item is a player I like, running back Sean Tucker, was not tendered by the Bucs, so just kind of keep an eye on him. I know our friend Jackson Bevins, who hosts a great podcast, Cigar Thoughts, about the Seahawks. He is a big Sean Tucker guy and thinks that would be a great fit for the Seahawks. And I do think that's the kind of running back they might be going after. And I think he's intriguing for someone out there. So I might have to add him to my 101. That was Charging Into the Offseason, presented by Apple Card. Apply for Apple Card in the Wallet app today and start earning daily cash back on all your game day purchases, from tickets to tailgate munchies to merch, subject to credit approval. Hit that music, Eric. I got to make my promise. We did it, kind of. We said it'd be a quick show. It was pretty quick. And I want it to be quick because we have a banger coming on Friday. Check out our Matchmaker episode. It's a competition, and there's a big-time prize on the line. Who can match the most free agents with the new teams? Also, check out Jourdan Rodrigue's great feature on scouting on The Athletic. Got that in under the gun. We'll see you Friday.